Hello, I'm EnterElysium and welcome to From the Depths. This is the Wing Zero. I did alter the railgun, and now it can fire about once every 3.3 seconds. So if we pop the railgun out, one, there we go. Fire broadside, because why not? You notice that the ship, by the way, does, like, dip to the side, because, heavy barrel. So, fire. 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 So I've put us on 10 times overclock. So you can see that the power dips kind of massively. And we are firing every time it gets back to full charge, which is the idea of this gun. And it's pretty powerful. If we have a quick look at the gun, let's follow the projectile first. Arm pierce of 85, kinetic damage of over 3,000, speed of 2.5 kilometers. Nothing is going to be able to dodge it, because it'll be hitting a target at a range of 2.5 kilometers in a second. There's no real chance of dodging that particularly, unless maybe you're a flying squirrel, and even then, you get close and you're dead. If I put the gun away, we'll have a look at the stats. Cooldown is 3.32 seconds, so it fires, 3 times every 10 seconds, 18 rounds a minute. I think 18 rounds a minute is a very respectable number for something with so much power. Speed increase of 500, so even without the railgun charging, it would still fire at 2 kilometers. Honestly, why do we need the railgun? I don't know, but I wanted one. We don't need a railgun. The railgun doesn't do very much. We could have just made it a faster fire rate and less cooldown, but we have a railgun, so whatever. Inaccuracy of 0.047. This thing is so accurate, it will be able to hit a single block at a range of a kilometer, probably. This thing is incredibly accurate. The ridiculous speed and the tiny projectile, it is so accurate, it's almost insane. Now, one problem it does have is because of the raised missile area at the back, and the fact that technically this spinning rail is underneath the barrel, if we try and turn it, you've guessed it, we can't get a full angle of fire, which is fine. It's annoying, but it's fine. Now, people have said, oh, why do you only have one rail? It would be better if you had more, etc. Well, statistically, it would just drain the charge faster, which actually would be more problematic. People said it would look better more than one rail. Yeah, you're probably right. But on the AA mantlet, you can only have one rail. You can't connect to the side, you can't connect to the top. Well, you can connect to the side, but you want to connect other things to the side. And actually, can you? I don't know if you can. But on the AA mantlet, I've tried before. I definitely remember that the only way to really get it to work is to connect to the bottom. And sadly, that's the way it is. So, and the AA mantlet is amazing. So don't get me wrong, we're keeping the AA mantlet. Missiles at back work, cannons here work. I'm pretty happy with this ship in general. I'm very happy with it. Now, one issue it does have, if we go into full reverse, you'll see that we end up tipping quite a lot. I mean, we're still moving 10 meters per second, so it's a reasonable reverse rate, and we can continue to fire from this position. So if we're reversing away from the enemy as they approach on us, we're okay. So I will let the ship reverse, because if they're coming at me, I definitely want them firing off the front. But it's worth noting that we do end up looking very weird when reversing. But all in all, I think the ship is fine. I am kind of happy with its performance. So I'm going to just despawn it for the sake of simplicity. Boop. Bye. No. So what I did with the ship is I basically made the one autoloader have 3 clips, and I added the second autoloader with 3 clips, which massively improved the fire rate. And let us spawn in Isaac class Fortress, which I've done a lot of work on, and you're going to see an issue. Here we go. And suddenly the frame rate tanks. The frame rate, oh my god. It's pretty bad, right? Let me just pull this out of the water and then we'll have a look at why this is. Are we out of the water yet? No. Almost. You can see I can look down here and tell. We're out of the water. Okay, let's get a sufficient bit of height. And we're good. Right. So the frame rate is absolutely tanked right now. We're getting about 19 frames, 13 frames, 14 frames, 12 frames, 14 frames. There's a reason for this. So what I've done, I'll just mention what I've done, is I've put the Queen cannon onto 4 of these cannon systems. The 4th one, I did need to change the position of the last autoloader to be a vertical rather than out the back. The last 5 cannons, we're going to do something for them this episode. I've also added drop torpedoes here. I think it's got 20 on each side. Torpedo sonar, ballast tank regulator, frag, explosive, explosive, explosive. 4 propellers, 2 fuel tanks, 3 fins. All in all, pretty good. I've given us 2 rail guns that fire with twin barrels, so they have a pretty good fire rate. I think they're firing... Let's check. Did I put a fire rate limit on you? Yeah. They're firing 3 times a second. It's pretty good. Now, you can see that I've got a very, very small charge rail on this because it was taking too much power from the battery and they couldn't charge fast enough. So I'm only boosting it slightly. If you check, it says railgun speed increase 711 meters per second. The reason is it's a tiny projectile. The projectile is... where do you say the projectile? Oh, it's up there. Shell diameter, 3 centimeters. We're firing a 3 centimeter shell. The diameter shell we're using on the Wing Zero is 12 centimeters. This one's a lot smaller. The idea is it's going to have less kinetic energy. It wouldn't be able to go through a warship, but it would be able to take out a flyer, because flyers aren't as big. Or, in theory, most of the time they aren't as big. Even if they are as big, it'll do a decent amount of damage. So the idea is it's just going to start punching things out of the air. But that's not what's causing the frame rate lag, although admittedly... it is certainly helping. In fact, this is actually causing a decent amount of frame rate lag. I'll get back to why that is in a second. What I have added, though, as you can see here, is 2 cannons with 6 barrels over here, and 2 cannons with 6 barrels over here. Oh yes, these are delicious, delicious, timed flak cannons. These cannons fire flak rounds that explode after a certain time, based on where the target is, that should explode in proximity to the target, doing splash damage with a large radius and a good amount of, not major, but reasonable damage. These things fire nice and fast. I believe they fire also 180 rounds per second. Per minute. Per second would be kind of crazy. And if we watch them... they've got flares on them. Now, flares... allow you to have more accuracy provided you fired recently. I mean, I think it counts if you fired in the last, 3 seconds or something. It makes your rounds more accurate. And as you can see, we're getting out to reasonable ranges and then putting up a little flak cloud. Now, there isn't a target, so they're not really exploding at a certain target. They're just exploding when they get to a set depth, I think, at the moment. But they will be able to do reasonable damage to anything flying. The idea is, even if it's fast flying, they should explode vaguely near it and do damage. But they can also probably, because of the way they arc, because they've got a very low muzzle velocity of about 130, 140 meters per second, they should be able to lob bombs onto surface targets as well. They should be able to take out small boats, unarmed craft, and do some damage to larger craft. This thing is going to punch quite a hole in anything it meets, in addition to the fact it's got these 2 lasers, which I just haven't gone over. It's also got missiles here, and here, and here, and here, all the way down till the last 2, which just couldn't fit them in. These missiles are infrared camera, fins, fuel tanks, variable thruster going pretty fast, 2 EMP explosive, 2 thrag, and a predictor. A predictor. So we've got every weapon. We're very happy with the amount of weapons we've got. But I do want to add these last 5 cannons here. And what I'm thinking is a slightly faster firing gun. However, the problem is, with our current frame rate, which will get a lot worse if I move to the center of the craft. There we go. Frame rate has dipped down to below 20. Yeah, we're on 16, 17 currently. The reason is these magazines. As you can see, it's got lots of shells in. And this, there's many magazines with many shells in. And this, there's many magazines with many shells in. The game tanks frame rate massively when it's trying to draw this many shells. It absolutely... I know they're called clips in game. They really are magazines. But they're called clips in game. When it's trying to draw this many shells, the game just absolutely fails. it just tanks frame rate massively. So if I pull away, we should see a frame rate increase. There. I'm hitting the max cap for the recording, which is 30. If I zoom in, suddenly you can see that frame rate down to 15. And this is a problem with From the Depths right now. It means that I am going to have difficulty building large craft, which means I might have to put the battleship on hold. We can certainly start making it and leaving space for cannons and then build, the queen cannons and stuff, which have so few shells it doesn't really matter. But anything that's going to have a lot of ammo like this is going to tank frame rates massively. Now, you can see the reason that I don't have frame problems when I move far away is if I move the camera further away and just make sure... There we go. Move back in. Move away. Move back in. At a certain range, the game stops drawing some objects to save on frame rate. Like, if we move far enough away, it won't draw missiles in racks. It does the same thing with the shells. There we go, missiles are gone. And that helps. That's why we suddenly go to here and bam, oh, our frame rate's suddenly back at 30. We go here, bam, frame rate's at 18, 16, 17. So, I don't really know what to do about this. I do want to make some more stuff on camera, but the frame rate is going to be pretty bad. Now, I can unlink all of these guys temporarily. And that would help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly force these to be unlinked. And the way to do that is just to grab a gauge increase. And why can't I put a gauge increase on here? Oh, that's not a gauge increase, sorry. Where is my... There we go, that's gauge increase. There we go. And because it's like, oh, I've got to get different size shells, it's trying to pick different size shells up. The thing is, the shells I've told it to pick up are too large for the magazines it's got. Those magazines won't be able to load those shells. So I'm forcing it to drop all of its ammo, and it can't draw any more ammo. It's not going to be able to. Put mirror line down. And something someone mentioned, which I completely agree with, by the way, is that the Queen Cannon shouldn't be firing at AP-capped warheads. If they're firing HE rounds, they should be firing specific squash or shape charge warheads, which are designed for this. Now, the shape charge warhead has a speed modifier of 1, whereas the AP-capped head has a speed modifier of 1.5. The issue is, I think that might affect our range. Now, you notice that I've taken off the base bleeder and added another gunpowder. The reason is, I tried using gravity compensator in tests, but the problem is, the gravity shell was so slow, because I added a gravity compensator, that it wasn't getting particularly past 6 kilometers. So I took the base bleeder off, added another gunpowder, and that has made it able to go further, because it's got higher muzzle velocity. But if I add the shape charge head, expected muzzle velocity drops too much. I would love to use a shape charge head, but it would mean that I'd need to do something like... you're meant to be max diameter. That. It's okay. It certainly loses a lot of the damage that I was hoping for with the shape charge. I'm probably going to go for it anyway. That muzzle velocity is high enough that we can get some serious range out of these. But we'll have to see. Right, let's back up. And go find our guns. So I'm going to build the gun in the tightest space possible at the end, and then we can easily port it back over. Here we go. Wow. Maybe a little bit tighter than I expected. We can get to work. We can get to work. Right, so what we want is something with... I think it's something with like 3 barrels, maybe. Maybe 4. Because I want a reasonable rate of fire. Although maybe we should just go for 2. Give it some medium-sized shells. The choices, the choices. Let's go with 3. I just like the idea of a 3-barrel thing because it looks slightly different. And we'll go for advanced cannon. Gauge increase. Left-right splitter. Gauge increase. Gauge increase, gauge increase. What are we up to now for the gauge? 130 millimeters. I want to try and get them up to maybe 200. 181? I think 181 is acceptable. We've got 380mm barrels. Seems good to me. Right. So with that in mind, and the fact we've got limited space, these are going to be close-in weapons. Now, I can make them just a 1-meter autoloader. What I might try and experiment with is the 1-meter belt-fed. Now, the 1-meter belt-fed is incredibly fast-firing, but when it needs to reload, it needs to reload. It reloads everything. So, there we go. Yeah, it's only got one input. So the way it works is... Are you connected like that? Yes, you are. The way it works is the belt-fed goes, okay, firing. Reloading. Firing. It doesn't reload on the fly. It does fire faster, but when it needs to reload, it must fill the entire magazine before it can fire again. So if we get a clip... 1-meter clip, and I'm going to move the 1-meter clip back to here temporarily just so I can alter this. Because I want this to be able to get fed from all sides. And maybe make the clip larger. If I put the clip up here... Not connected. Yeah, damn you. Okay, if we put the clip, like... there. That is connected. 1, 2, 3. And then if we put... feeder input, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. Now, the question is, what can I fit that's 181 millimeters wide in a 1-meter rack? Something short-ranged, obviously. So let's go and make ourselves a shell. We could go with something like a hollow point. I don't think the velocity is going to be high enough out of something like this. Sabot head. And then solid body. Oh crap, that should be solid body and then Sabot warhead. What do we get? We get an arm pierce of 33, kinetic damage of 9. Like, this is fine. And the muzzle velocity is pretty high as well. In fact, we could probably change this and have it a bigger shell. With only 1 gunpowder casing. It's going to fire reasonably fast. I think the issue is going to be that I actually want something explosive. I want to be able to pepper them with something explosive. Now, we could have a tracer, but the thing is, at the range they're engaging, I don't think they'll need a tracer. Also, if I put a tracer on something like this, it's a large amount of the explosiveness that I would be taking away. So I'm going to have explosiveness. I could go for an EMP. EMP, explosive, where's explosive, explosive, HE, and then AP capped. 143 meters per second, arm pierce if it's going to explode immediately. EMP strength, it's a little bit. Explosive, 7-meter blast rate. Okay. I don't feel that's terrible. I feel that is reasonable, but the problem is I don't think EMP warheads are particularly effective on shells. That said, I am throwing out a lot of shells, so it might be worthwhile. The other choice is that you can do something with frag. So let's try something with frag. What would it be like if I added a frag warhead body and then said your cone angle should be 19 degrees. It's about the same. We'll go with that. A HE frag AP capped warhead with a gunpowder casing. So, now to set this up, let me just grab ammo parts. He aims, he aims. Oh, missed. Okay. Okay, let's check what the optimum firing for that shell is. Optimum barrel length for propellant burn is 2.9. Interesting. Okay. In which case, this barrel's actually too long. Not that that makes a difference. So I will leave it as it is, but I will add, on the end, a bore evacuator. So are we fully loaded yet? Not quite. Time before reload. The time since the shell was fired that the belt feeder will wait before it begins the reload cycle. So as soon as we stop firing, it will wait 10 seconds to check if we want to fire again, and then it will start loading more shells. Right. Now, definitely cooldown is an issue here. 4.45 seconds. And then wait for it, wait for it. We should see... at the 10-second mark... delicious tea. There we go. Doesn't seem to be particularly faster as an autoloader. Anyway, let's add a load of cooldown thingies on. Now we could check by adding a normal autoloader instead of a belt-fed autoloader if it improves or decreases the fire rate very much. So if we switched to using an autoloader, a normal autoloader, for instance. Wow. Yeah, belt-fed autoloaders all the way. Yep, totally using belt-fed autoloaders from now on. Well, no, at least on this cannon, but you can see my quandary. But the belt-fed autoloader by far and away wins this one. So if I can hurry up to this side of the map. Whee! I would like my belt-fed autoloader, please. Please gift belt-fed autoloader. And then I can put another one in so that these puppies reload some ammo into them. Just firing two at once. Okay. Let's set a max rounds per minute. Now, I do want this thing firing at about 60 RPM at least. So let's just set it at 61 for now. That feels good. That actually just feels really good. Let's check. What range can we get? Coming down. Coming down. Oh, I've got no AI to compare it against. God damn it. Okay, but that feels good, right? That actually feels legitimately like it's a good weapon. Now, I'll need to tweak some of the reload time so that it doesn't take 60 seconds to reload. In fact, though, it takes so long to empty its clips, because it's got quite large clips, that maybe 60 seconds is fine. Yeah, I'll set you back to 60 seconds. Why not? I feel that that is probably a pretty good weapon. Now, of course, we're going to need to replicate it all along the front, which is an easy prefab jobby. I just need to do that all the way across the front. I'll need to expand the ammo supply down here to be able to provide a lot more ammo, which is a simple case of just running it across here and putting everything all over it to be able to stimulate it. And then I'll put resource collectors in the bottom, which are going to be pretty cool. I don't even think I need KKVs. I don't need connect kill vehicles. I think we're probably fine. I'm happy with the cans we've got. I'll need to put in AIs, but again, that's a simple matter. I'm going to see if there is a way to turn off the harvesters so that when we've got enemy ships nearby, we can turn off the harvesters and thus fight with it without tanking frame rate. But we will tank frame rate because of these shells anyway. But I think we'll end it there for this episode. I know we've just focused on doing one weapon, and I think it's a pretty effective weapon. I'm pretty happy about it because there's going to be 5 on each side. That's 10. So that gives us a fire rate of about 600 rounds per minute. You're getting the idea about why this ship is going to be pretty crazy. Now, of course, it is a fortress. It's going to be a sitting target. I'll need to put in shields all over it, etc. That's just a slow, boring procedure. You don't want to see me putting shields all over it because it's just going to take time. And I will then clad it, and then maybe I'll paint it. Although I do kind of like the imposing grey. Definitely reminds me of the Demi-Oak from 40k. But yeah, I've been EnterElysium. I know, again, it's been an episode about building and about one weapon entirely, but I don't think we'll have another building episode specifically because the frame rate is being tanked so hard when I make these things. I don't think I can make any ships with crazy amounts of ammo. And I'd like to make miniguns and stuff. Maybe at some point we'll have a bit of an episode where instead of doing the battleship I was thinking about, we'll delay that a couple of episodes. Maybe we'll make a helicopter with like a GAU, like a 60mm Gatling cannon. So we'll specifically make it a 6cm cannon with 6 barrels and see what we can get out of it. Like, hopefully something like that with a nice strafing run would be good with a belt fed. But it'll be interesting to see. Anyway, I've been EnterElysium. If you enjoyed, please like, not subscribe, please consider subscribing. And I will tell you that we are going to be fighting the lightning hoods. Now, there was a very good reason for this. I know a lot of people said, oh, attack someone like the Onyx Watch. But the Onyx Watch are kind of meant to be good guys. And, you know, definitely was thinking about it. But quite a few people, not many as the Onyx Watch, but quite a few people said the lightning hoods. Specifically because, A, they're like technological pirates. They're bad guys. And they provided the technology to the White Flayers. So it makes sense in a story progression to attack the White Flayers and then to attack the Lightning Hoods. Because we'd attacked the White Flayers, we took their capital building, and then after taking their capital building, we realized that all their stuff was being provided by the Lightning Hoods, and we discovered from all this information, we were like, well, we have to take them out. It makes sense in canon. This is the canon of our story. It makes sense, and I'm going to go for it. But anyway, until next time, stay shiny.